An opera singer who now owns Crumbl Cookies. He went from Broadway level vocals to cookie economics.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
If you've ever wondered what really makes a franchise work, Taj breaks it down. It's about trust, people, and the grind behind the counter. Welcome back to another episode of How I Franchise This. Today I am joined by an individual I've been talking to for almost a year at this point, we just realized. Taj, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Why don't we jump right into, what franchise do you currently run? How many locations do you have and where are they located?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I took on Crumbl. I have two locations, one in Johnson City, Tennessee, and the other in Bristol, Virginia.
Awesome. So you got a sweet tooth.
Say the least. Yes.
Or I think it was Biggie Smalls. He had a line where he's like, "Don't get high off your own supply." So you better not be eating too many.
I gotta keep reminding myself that almost daily.
All right, well, Crumbl, I mean, super well-known brand. Yeah, I think at this stage, like someone hard to get into, right? Because they've got such good economics. They've got a national presence now. But I want to walk back to what you were doing before Crumbl. I don't think everyone just wakes up one day and is like, I'm gonna own a cookie franchise. So like, what was life like before Crumbl? Like, what was your career? What was life like growing up? Did you have any early influence that inspired entrepreneurship, business ownership, etc.?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I thought I would be an opera singer.
What?
That was the big dream. I would say until.
All right, you got to sing. Give us some. No, I'm kidding. I won't make. Give me like a line. Give me a line. Give me
something. Right?
Yeah.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
No way. That is okay. What? That's a first, and that was awesome. Thanks for doing that. So you wanted to be an opera singer. What happened? Did you go for it? What happened?
I had interest. We're talking like 5, 6, 7 years old. I continued on with choir throughout middle school, high school. My undergrad is in music industry studies. So I studied the business of marketing and management of music. And through all of that, I've continued with vocal coaching and just, different teachers from I was born and raised in New York, so I had the privilege of some Broadway teachers. Then moving to Charlotte, North Carolina at 16. I found some university professors as well as folks at App State that helped keep the voice close.
That's amazing.
Yeah, as the journey continued, I took on internships each summer. Started with Madison Square Garden, where I worked in event production, building operations. And my first job with them ended up in finance and accounts payable. So
what a wild zigzag of singing through. Wow. Okay, keep going.
So in that realm, I picked up what I found for myself is guest experience is something that I really, really have held on to. Even when it was folks, calling in to pay their bills or to have their bills paid or for us paying for them, that vendor interaction, that's where I was like, there's something here. I have a special ability to connect with another human and build trust. From there, I moved on to hotels. I worked for Fairmont for about 3 years. in a capacity of food and beverage manager. So I was in San Jose, California, and worked for the Fairmont property there, where I ran 3 outlets. So the lobby lounge bar, the breakfast restaurant, in-room dining, and the gazebo by the pool. So did that for about 3 years. And while I was there, I was able to do a little bit of studying in hospitality management. So learned a bit more about that, the functions of it, and working in luxury hospitality was really the pinnacle of how I'd like to continue to grow. Pandemic hits, brought back to Charlotte. Wasn't locked in a little shoebox in Santa Clara County, so and came back and got into Fintech. So I started working as an account manager for various financial technologies, which would allow, basically I was in like mortgage first, and then I went into solar financing. Through that experience, I have started a conversation, had to have been as soon as I graduated from undergrad, with my current business partner, one of them, Clifford Waddell. And from there, we started an entertainment agency. So I've been running an entertainment agency for now 6 years, where we sell TV and film projects to Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, ABC, NBC. I have about 25 writers, and we, read their scripts, help them with what mandates are being asked of the different networks, and bring those projects forward for greenlight with the different production houses and studios.
How do you even get into that? It's like you're kind of like you're taking, it's almost like a Shark Tank-esque version of like people are pitching you ideas, right? And you're saying, hey, this is good, this is not good, refine here, here, and here. Yeah. But what gives you like how do you even start doing that? And then as you get into it, how do you have the relationships with the studios, I guess, and you know what they're looking for, and then you're out kind of searching for that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I'll bring it back to that background in just finding trust in other humans, building trust in other humans. I think that's been a really consistent level set through the last 15 years. Building upon myself, growing my ability within the network per se, but honestly, man, it's friendships. It's not something where I meet someone once. I have an knack to stay in touch. My first boss at Madison Square Garden is now the general manager of the arena. And, I find that of Madison Square Garden Arena, and I find that so, I find pride in that, because as he's continued to grow himself, we've stayed in touch, we've helped each other grow, and it just brings even more flowers to the parade. So through through those experiences, through shaking multiple hands, we were able to formulate this. Furthermore, one of my board members, the chairwoman of our board for Sane Media, is Yolanda Smith, and she introduced us to Robert Stein, one of the founders for UTA, United Talent Agency. So when Cliff, my business partner, met with Robert, he moved us from music to TV and film, with something to the degree, Cliff will knock me if I'm saying this wrong, but something to the degree of, you have what it takes to do TV and film, forget the music.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So started about 2 years ago in that zone, where we have multiple sectors where we help with brand partnership and a few others, but this TV and film piece has really become a good primary for us.
And so and to the extent that you're comfortable sharing, a lot of people listening love to hear about the like behind the scenes? Like, how does this work? How does monetization work? And again, you don't have to get into details, but is this you guys source a story, a script, etc., and then you help package it up, and then you sell it to the studios, and then you get a percentage of whatever they buy it for? Or how does that work?
You got it. So, as an entertainment agent, the industry standard is 10%.
Okay.
So what happens as we continue through this? First, a writer will write their script. Sometimes it's more than one writer. Then the script will be brought to either directly or through folks like us, who basically you need to have some level of relationship. Going cold is difficult. It can be done. So in that way, what we then do is help them get the green light through either adding cast to like actors, actresses, showrunners, production teammates, etc. That will enhance the ability to get a green light from the studio, easier. And in that way, as this continues, there's one season, okay, this is the price that happens. There's 2 seasons, a new contract is negotiated, 4, 5, 6, and that's kind of the formulation. You certainly have to be a talent advocate, to say the least, to even move in this direction. So for me, one of the role models through and through has been Irving Azoff, in kind of what they've done from Ticketmaster days to Eagles to other.
That's amazing. I didn't realize the extent of this. So last question on this before we keep going, but are there any shows or recognizable assets that you've been a part of that you helped pitch and make a thing, and whether it's a documentary or show? I don't even know if you can talk about it, but are there any
we have really been moving the needle. Where we're getting caught up at the moment is in finding showrunners that have enough clout to give us a green light. So very much green in the field. If a showrunner happens to be listening to this and wants to reach out, they figured, I know it's very selective. I know it's very, depending upon what the show is. Do they like it? Do they not? Can they push it themselves? But really just building out the network that way. Our writers, we do have a writer that did some Will Trent work. We have the Proud family back in the day. There's a that we're in touch with that's done that. So slowly, steadily, the pot of resources is growing. And honestly, just I'm so impressed with the ability of each writer we have, because some are new, emerging, but they're writing every day, which, as you know, practice makes perfect. Do have folks who are Blacklist award winners, as well as Emmy winners.
Wow. And so you've got this entertainment business, which fascinating story, by the way. How did you go from that, which you're still doing, to franchising or a different type of business ownership? You own this business over here, but what even sparked you to say, hey, I'm interested in even considering adding this other thing to my plate?
Yeah. I feel I'm still not very busy. I took on investment of a cocktail lounge in Manhattan. And through that, the same partners, basically we've been family friends for 40 years, before I was born. So my dad kind of hooked it up with the Crumbls.
Okay.
The idea was, and still is, we'll see how it goes, because I've been putting in, like this week, I'll be putting in almost 60 hours in the stores, Valentine's Day week. So, but the idea is, as I'm continuing with the entertainment business, I have something that I can handle without being completely consumed in it. So that's kind of where the conversation begun. February 2025. February 2025, my dad gave a call to another uncle and said, "Hey man, let's get Dodge something." And with my background in food and beverage, it was not something that was like out of the blue. Like when I'm in the stores, I have a good sense of what's going on, where things are, how it's working. So it was an easy entry per se with my experience and my background. Where I'm finding enjoyment is in Crumbl being a luxury product, for the price point, and being able to really, for example, I was in there before coming on, 60-ish-year-old lady's birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. She came in today for her treat, and I sang happy birthday to her.
That's awesome.
It's those elements to it where I have the ability with the team to enhance that type of experience. A lot of the kids that I'm working are either college or high school. There's one or two who are later in their 20s or early 30s, but the best part about it is I am able to shape some of their path. I mean, yeah, I have nursing majors and this major and that major, but every single one of them, whether you have AI or not, needs to understand the value of a human trusting you.
Yep.
Getting in front of that POS, getting into the lobby space, helping the customer with their order, whether it's a 4-pack, a 6-pack, you're trying to upsell them, whatever that looks like. Really having that ability and that juice to do it. A lot of the times it's knowing what to say. At least that's how it was for me when I started at Fairmont. It was watching, I was working for my cousin who was director of food and beverage at the time, but watching him as he did what he did, so that way I could do the same. And I think a lot of it comes from being in plays and musicals and in choir, etc. Because as soon as a teacher would do it, I could mimic.
That's amazing. Something you said too, like I completely agree with. It's this idea of like business and entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful forces I feel like in society, and can be, so much good can be done with it. The impact you have on this handful of other individuals' lives and how they view business and what's possible and how they can then further relay that impact, and then the customer experience and trust. I think that's a really admirable and well said message that I think sometimes people overlook. People might look at, oh yeah, I got employees, it can be a headache, but if you also take it upon yourself to do good with that responsibility, there's gonna be tough days like any relationship where you disagree on something or someone doesn't show up or any number of things, but all the good that can come from it too, I feel like outweighs it 9 times out of 10. I'm glad.
Days, I hope my team doesn't hear this, but my favorite days are when we have call outs, because I get to grind. I'm in there with the others that have said, hey, I'm coming in, whether it's snowstorm or this or that. Snowstorm, usually we try to keep people safe, but whatever happens, right? Somebody had a nice fun party the night before, doesn't want to come in type thing. We have that ability to either take it in oh man, the person didn't show up, so horrible, or I like the optimistic side of it, where it comes fairly naturally. I think the team in general, it's been 4 months now, and the team has more or less said multiple times, why are you so positive? What's wrong with you? Well, how do you have I don't know. I wake up, I don't drink coffee, and I'm ready to go.
You and me both. I don't know if we talked about that last time. I don't drink coffee, and people think I'm crazy and something's wrong with me, but I think you're just like you said, you're looking for the good, and I don't know, there's enough of an energy that comes with that, and again, a sense of positive responsibility. One thing I wanted to ask you, so you said your dad and your uncle, they're looking at like different businesses. Like Taj has his food and bev and hospitality background. What was it about Crumbl? Like, did you look at other brands? Was it more opportunistic in the sense that like, hey, this existing business became available, let's jump on it? Or did you guys have like a hit list of like, here's the types of businesses, here's the types of brands we're looking at?
Yeah, so I had to go back to them when I got the question list. So what happened, what I learned is this. They wanted to find something around Charlotte, North Carolina. So that way I could live in Charlotte. Well, guess what? I'm not living in Charlotte. I'm about 3.5, 4 hours away in the mountains. I've never lived by cow farms and, like this. So very different. But the idea was we start with, I thought it was North Carolina. That was kind of the general census I got, because we looked at some businesses in South Carolina, around Columbia, as well as Charlotte itself. As we were looking through, when the profit and loss statements showed up to us, and they checked EBITDA, that's when they kind of made determination of what might make the most sense. I think there was a short enough timeline to where, while there was some brain power used to, okay, we want to start with 2 in this vicinity and then expand into the different states in the southeast of the US, it just turned into found a good brand, found a good EBITDA, and went for it.
No, and that makes, that's a fair way to think about it. It's like, hey, is it profitable at a degree? Is it proximity close, etc.? Were you guys dead set on franchising versus a non-franchise independent business, or was like franchising a big part of it too?
Franchise certainly a primary driver. The cocktail lounges that the family friend has, I call him a cousin too. I've known these guys forever, but
Yep.
that is independent. It's
Okay.
called Monkey Thief in Hell's Kitchen, New York City.
Okay.
So there are independents in the larger holdings company. For what I was getting into, it will be a bit more of a franchise model, and looking for businesses that have found success already. So, for example, these stores I have are in the top 150 of the franchises, among all 1,100 plus.
Wow.
And it's honestly it's a well-oiled machine, where we've kept everyone intact, from my general manager that sees both stores all the way down, and promotions are being given all over, so that way we can keep it nice and tight in the core.
Love it. I love hearing that. And do you know why? Like, why was it that, for this search, it was like, hey, what franchising versus independent? Was it because, hey, there's systems in place and there's a brand, and what was it that drew, you guys to a franchise versus not?
Yeah, certainly the idea of the brand, and systems. Systems are certainly part of it. So outside of this, the holdings company has 5 Little Caesars in Philadelphia, a Five Guys in upstate New York, and I think that's where the understanding, because the Little Caesar have been around for, I think it's year number 6 now.
Okay.
So when they begun, it had that little roller coaster up and down. The choices made for that were not as they weren't top of the franchise pool for Little Caesars. Whereas, for example, with the Crumbles, I really took on stores that were already performing really well.
Yeah.
So those differences I can certainly see, but I think what it came down to is where can the investors place themselves so that way there is good ROI, but also some level of risk versus independent where you really got to build a brand, build it out, put all the wheels on the bus at the same time.
Yeah. While you're driving.
Formulation, yeah, while you're driving. This formulation makes it a bit easier to where previous owners were a husband and wife. I've come in, the only one here from our ownership team that is overseeing on the day-to-day. So it does make it a little bit more easier that way than, for example, with the cocktail lounge and some of the others that are coming this year, we have multiple partners in New York City for that.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. One, you get diversification of different things, but also, again, like you said, the playbook, the systems, the brand, you're starting from square 4 or 5 instead of square 1, and
Right.
there's ROI built in.
Yeah, even just the beginning of going through training, going through having a franchise partner consultant. I can send somebody in the support messaging anytime. I can ask whatever question I want. Like those elements of it with the franchise as well. I'm now in touch with at least a 4-hour radius around me. Almost every franchise partner I've said hello to. So I have that ability, and they're very warm and welcoming where it's like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? They'll tell you what's going on, how they're feeling, what it is. Cool enough. One of them in the Tennessee area has 5 stores. That's been helpful to kind of listen to, understand. The training stores I was sent to, that gentleman has 2 currently. One is Virginia Tech, Blacksburg, and then the other Lynchburg. And he's opening another one hopefully this year, but just in a general sense, right? As I see them expanding and moving through their own in the 1 to whatever years they have, you get to feel out their experience a little bit, which is just helpful as I'm getting into it.
Yeah, like where else, if you're on your own, where else can you get that? And as an entrepreneur, you're more of like a, kind of tech venture-backed entrepreneur. There's not anyone doing exactly what we're trying to do in front of us, but there's hundreds of other founders, entrepreneurs that are experiencing the same issues: capital raising, people management, hiring. How do you make the right strategic decisions with limited resources and so much to lose? And so you can still learn from and benefit from that, but not at the level that I think a franchise system provides, where it's the same set of problems, the same, and yes, they're different to a degree, but a lot more similarities in the values that you can learn from someone who's already done it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and try to, come up with things from scratch necessarily.
Small example. I'm working on one of the stores' marketing. So I'm able to reach out to the franchise partner. We're able to talk through, the blue signs on highway exits.
Yeah.
The food and the gas and the this and then that. I learned that comes from the Department of Transportation. Those are the guys that organize those. But slowly, steadily, as I'm continuing to see, okay, do I want a billboard? Do I want a blue sign? Do I want to get more creative with maybe having one of the teammates, dance around in a cookie costume around the hall and in Sam's Club parking lot? There are options that way, and it's been tested through other franchise partners. So that way I get to see a little bit, okay, if I go this route, this is the benefit that's come from these particular folks that have, brought information and data to us before. So that I can kind of calculate a bit further. In the same light, I get to bring new things forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, you can still get to be entrepreneurial and creative and innovative, but also not having to go spend tens of thousands of dollars testing the cookie spinner or sign spinner or the billboard or whatever it may be. I want to go back to part of the decision that you guys were making. Were there any hesitations or big questions or concerns you had as you were going through diligence on like, is this the brand and is this the like area we want to be in? I mean, any, you know, advice you have for people listening there around like which questions to ask and what potential concerns could come up?
So the parts that I was in on conversation wise, there was a lot of confidence in Crumbl, in the brand itself. I mean, even if you do a search of top franchises, it shows up pretty high every single time. I think last I looked, when prior to it probably was July or August of 2025 now, but it was hanging right next to Smoothie King, so it was like number 18. So I saw that and I was like, all right, we're fine. Like this is too old. Um, there wasn't a moment after, especially after looking at the P&L, where we lost confidence. There was plenty of good data from the TikTok, from all the socials, the way Crumbl markets themselves, to what I was hearing in the market among high school and their target market, high school and college. So in that realm, it really did help with making a decisive decision on how to move forward. There wasn't hesitation, and I think that's the beauty of it. When you see, because okay, very real. I did not know what Crumbl was until we started the conversations in 2025. There are 2 stores in South Charlotte where I was living at the time, but until this journey begun, I had never been to them because I'm not the target market. And even TikTok is something I downloaded after after February. I got TikTok.
You're in this whole new world now.
And then the stuff that's said around the stores in the kitchen, man, these like 17 to 24-year-olds, I still don't understand half the phrases, but now I'm repeating them to them, so that way, at least I'm in the circle.
Yeah, you're one of them.
Part of the club.
I know, it's so funny how life happens like that. Like you're a kid and you say these things and older people don't get it. And you're like, oh, I'll never be like that. Like, sure enough, like we're like that now. And people are saying things and you're like, what is happening? That's so funny. Okay, so
I'm a lot more relatable, even to my friend circle. I'm 33. Even to my friend circle, they'll say things on whatever platform they send it to me on, and I'm so lost. Now working with these kids, I'm getting good at it.
You're plugged in. You're up to speed. I was gonna ask you. So, like, all right, you guys make the decision on Crumbl. You get these stores. You go through training. I mean, what were the first few months like after like this is yours now, and like I have a business to this other business to run now, and responsibility of people that work here and customers. Like, you've said you've been in the store 60 hours a week. I guess walk me through the first few months of you actually like running and operating the business.
Yeah. First month, I was in training. So first couple weeks, there was a trainer that came to my stores. So they had me in one store for 1 week, then another store for the other week. Following that, I was basically put on my own in my stores for about a month. After that month, I was sent to the training store. So they have multiple training stores up and down in the US, and whatever was closest to me is where they sent me. So I spent about a week and a half there. And when I went for that training is when I really got to understand what was happening in the kitchen. I think the first couple weeks, it was just, honestly, the first month and a half, it was just doing whatever I could to help everybody else while figuring out taxes, licenses, what the heck's happening with inventory? How are my teams? What are their personalities like? What kind of energy do they bring? Do they have, what is this? What am I into? What is this happening? I moved 11 times in 3 months, different Airbnbs to keep, I wanted some level of a kitchen, etc. Now I'm in an apartment, but, just really so much change. So much. From cultural things to being in the mountains of Tennessee to getting to know the people to, even like open carry. People open carry here, and I have never held a gun. So, very different that way. I was set up well. Previous ownership really took the extra mile about a month before. I got plenty of checklist, so that way we could get all the vendors together, put everything in sync prior to September 15 when we took over. But it was a wild ride to where I remember the text from my GM. I think it was like after the 2 weeks of initial training, it was the first week of like me and the team. And I was just sitting on the computer doing paperwork. There was like so much paperwork to do. She calls and she goes, "Hey, are you going to be able to come into the store today?" She wanted to train me. And I was like, yeah, I'll come. Just have to, it's taking those breaks in between the initial setup for just really setting up each vendor, knowing where things are going. Where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in a Dropbox? Are you going to put it in a Google Sheet? Who's going to get access to what? How much access is required? Who needs access to the safe? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That stuff was, it took a lot of brain capacity.
Yeah. Well, it's something as you're describing it, it took me a little while to realize it in my last business, but it's the context switching. It's not that any of these tasks in and of themselves are, incredibly challenging or difficult or impossible to solve. It's the variability in the tasks that you're doing. You're going from training a person to talking to a customer to filling out a spreadsheet with, P&L information to talking to a security vendor or whatever it may be. And it's just like your brain having to jump from these 7 very different things is it's exhausting. And that's the part that gets challenging or tiring, is just the jumping around and trying to like juggle it all.
Yeah. And I'll relate it to marathon training and running. I ran New York City a few times and Charlotte a few times. But what I found 4 months into it now is really that conditioning. As I've continued and I've conditioned and I know what's coming, what to expect, who to do it with, how to do it. I've even had some wonderful coaching by a close mentor and friend, Carlos Salum. So Carlos really helped in some of the waves as well, the stress and recovery waves throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And just focusing in on a peak performance mindset where I'm able to make those maneuvers back and forth. I think Fairmont helped me at first with that. Actually, hold on. I just thought of something. What really helped with all of this was working with my choir directors, working with my vocal coaches, working with my voice teachers, because I would have to pivot. And I don't know if you maybe this will make sense to some of you listeners at least, but when you go through, even if you're holding a trumpet or playing the piano or with the guitar or whatever, if you're with somebody or you make a mistake and you got to go back, going back and doing it again and again and again and changing different tones, changing different notes, changing the way you deliver, I think that's what's helped me in this ability to maneuver between tasks fairly easily.
Mm-hmm. like you said, it's like the repetition, the consistency, and finding ways to do it. But like you said, constantly stopping, starting again, again. Um, did that get easier? So I know you have a couple locations. Did you do all of them at the same time, or was it like, hey, let's take over one and then add the second, or was it both at once?
Both at the same time.
Okay.
Yep.
And what kind of unique challenges did that present? Are you like jumping from store to store, or did it just magnify the context switching and the jumping around?
Yeah. So I don't know. I like busy. Even with the hotel having multiple places to oversee at one time when you're on, your shift, your 12-hour, your 10-hour shift for one, for one sitting, and I got to go from the lobby to the fountain restaurant, from the fountain restaurant to the in-room dining to the pool, and continuously having that flow. I actually enjoy it. So when opening these, or taking over these, it was they're 40 minutes apart from each other. So in the beginning, my mind, I don't love to drive. I really miss like New York City days where you get on a subway or walk wherever you want to go.
Yep.
Maybe one day that'll happen again. But for now, I had to get in the swing of driving, and getting where I needed to go. So in that way, I've gotten a bit more comfortable with it. It's a 40-minute drive from where I am to one store and about 10 minutes to the other. So even in that way, the way Crumbl split it up for me with training, they put me in one store for the first week. Then they put me in the other store for the second week. And there is a lot of reliability on my manager on duty for each shift. That's for sure. But, they take responsibility well. I have been, I'm all blessings, man. The team is solid.
It comes down, I tell people all the time, it's like people are your most important part of the whole thing, and they can either be your best asset or your biggest headache. It depends on who you get and how you work with them and train and, I can work together. You mentioned a second ago, you're like, hey, I'm in the store 60 hours or one of the stores 60 hours a week. Understanding early on, like you really got to learn the business. You got to be there. You got to, be in the operation. Do you envision that changing over time, or do you see that, hey, that's just kind of what it takes to run these types of businesses or franchises? Or I guess walk me through your line of thinking on as far as like what your day-to-day looks like today versus what you plan for it to be in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. So the heavy involved in store week, this week in particular, Valentine's Day week is like Crumbl's
Super Bowl.
busiest week of the year. You got it, exactly, the Super Bowl. So that's where this kind of effort's coming in. On a regular week, the idea is about maybe 25 hours in store, and spending the rest of that time going to the high schools, going to the Speedway, going to other businesses around to either look at partnership, marketing, other opportunities that way. As this journey continues, and my GM gets to know me better, I get to know her, the teams, etc. The idea is I get to break away a bit further and expand into more businesses.
Yep.
It'll probably remain in the franchise and or real estate. I'm also a real estate agent.
Okay. Gosh, you're like a Renaissance man. You can sing opera, you manage TV shows, script writing, you're running cookie shops. What the heck? Save some for the rest of us.
It's just fun, man. As I continue to, and it's not like I'm seeking opportunity. Honestly, that's exhausting. I find opportunity that kind of just shows up at the doorstep. And it's through for example, you and I may have some conversation in the next 10, 15 minutes where I'll remember it and even in a year from now, say, "Hey, Alex, you mentioned this. Is this something you're still looking at?"
I love that.
It's
Well,
been-
you said you have a knack for reaching out, and I think that's a powerful and amazing talent and skill set and just character to have. When you said something you said is like, hey, you're in it today. The plan is eventually to build that relationship. Someone else I had on the show was telling me that he scaled to 40 or 50 Midases at this point. And he's like, the way it worked was I did it at first. So it was, Taj has got to do it, be involved day to day. You're doing everything or a lot of everything. Then it's we did it. Where like that relationship with the manager, the team, it's like, hey, we're starting to build, layers of redundancy and supporting each other that way. And then it became they did it, where Taj is now out of the day to day to go open other businesses, other locations. And that's the playbook, I think, for if the goal is empire building or scale, you have to be thinking that way. But there's no shortcut to it. You can't just go to step 3 and be like, all right, they do it. You got to be in the I did it, we did it, because that's how you learn the business. That's how you learn to manage people, so that when you aren't in it, you know what to look for. You know the red flags or the signs, the warning signs for risk, etc. When you guys think about brand expansion, is that into the same, into Crumbl and more locations, or is it, hey, let's stay in this area geographically and add different brands within our portfolio that can still serve this region?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer two things.
Okay.
Because while you were speaking, something you said related to me. So when I went home for the holidays, it took maybe a week here or whatever there. I didn't know enough about what was happening in the businesses to be comfortable while away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I go, like a week and a half ago, I was stuck in South Florida because of the snow in Charlotte and this and that and the other. So I know when my GM calls and says something, what they're asking for, what's going on. I wouldn't know that if I wasn't in the stores, if I wasn't present. So certainly, I 100% agree there. You got to know. You got to know what you're getting into. How's it going?
Yeah.
Now, to answer your second question, building the core team. So my assistant managers, my general manager, my having that management structure. The idea is to find other opportunities within an hour radius, 2-hour radius, and then kind of just similar to a spider web, build out that way. So in one setting, it will be that the core team, like you explained with Midas, it turns into we, then it turns into them. Very much similarly is the concept in mind, because it makes sense.
Right.
I don't think there's a way to do it without for example, the person that has all these Midases knowing what's happening when they get a call. It's we're just getting a call and it's like, hey, I need 1 million strawberries. You're gonna go, what? What do you need 1 million strawberries for? Yeah. Versus, I know what's on the menu. I see the recipe. I know what I gotta get. Okay, I gotta go get strawberry. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So it's those elements of it where
context.
Yeah, you have to have some level of context to feel comfortable, because as you continue to grow, there will be investors. Yeah, we'd love if you have 100 million and you're doing it yourself, 100 million runs out too. So as you're continuing in that way, you will need to be able to explain back to whomever is looking for an ROI what's happening and why it's happening. Is it the lack of strawberries in the U.S. market? Who knows?
Well, so one thing I want to get into that, a lot of people listening is, people are doing business, one, because it's fulfilling, it's challenging, but people also want to make a living and an income and, and all that. As you guys think about, your business, were they break even and profitable right away? Were you buying a business that you had to kind of turn around? I mean, what was the state of the, financials of the business when you bought into it?
Yeah. So the state of the financials spectacular. There wasn't something where we felt like we'd have to hold on and keep investing for 1, 2, 3 years before it could turn a profit. Where, yeah, plenty of confidence in the ability of what the stores have going on and where it'll go. What some of the things listeners may need to keep an eye out for and think about is if you're looking at bank loans, you need to factor those in. If you happen to grab a loan, whatever the interest rate may be, whatever that looks like, you want to make sure that you have what you need to provide it back. In that way, for our stores in particular, we're looking just fine. With the way we have it set up, it'll show itself in about 5 years. But for somebody that may not go for loans or otherwise, I mean, certainly something to think about.
And is that how you guys structured yours? You guys you borrowed money to buy them, or did you guys do cash, or just so people are aware of like the different vehicles to
Yeah.
you finance some of these things?
There was a little bit of down payment placed, and the rest of it was financed.
Okay. Awesome. And you guys do like SBA loans, conventional loans, those Rob's rollovers.
Correct. This will be a conventional loan.
Okay. Awesome. Once a store, so you take on some debt, you buy the business, and to your point, you have to factor that in when you're thinking about your, financials and your outcome. Once a store is stabilized, how do you think about what a store could realistically net on an annual basis? Is it, is this millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit? I guess what's like the ballpark range that a Crumbl is expected to, to make?
So I'll give it to you straight, Alex. So with my dad and my uncle, like part of this, we like they really have me here as day-to-day ops.
Yep.
So I spend a lot of time really just making sure cash flow report looks fairly decent. Cash flow, because we're in the slow season, and like September to Valentine's Day is slow. It has been like really every week, check, see what's going on. Do we have enough for our expenses? Are we pulling in enough money? And on top of that, we had multiple snow days.
Yep.
So not having cash come in for 1 or 2 days does heavily impact at this moment. What we hope and what we're looking at is as the year goes on, that like Valentine's through September is really the hot spot for Crumbl sale. So that should help us level ourselves out.
Okay. So there's some seasonality, right? Like you've got to, that makes sense. Okay. That ties into, I think, to my next question is, what do you think prospective franchisees most underestimate about financial ramp up, especially in food related businesses? You mentioned the like million strawberries thing and, food costs. Are there any points or parts of the business in general that you think people underestimate at first?
So I would say your P&L from last year, one of the first things you'll get to see how the business did, whatever. If year to year that changes, and it's very possible it did for us, that made it a lot more. For me personally, it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness, a lot of what is about to happen. It wasn't on the brand. It was more of just, it's slow. It's seasonal. So yes, for folks that come in and are, have put every last dollar or something like that to put this together. Hopefully not. Don't do that if that's what you're doing. But just be very mindful that it's gonna take that solid year to know what is happening. Like, what does my cash flow look like, and where am I gonna do well? Where am I not?
Yeah.
Furthermore, even when it comes to partnerships, the stores were more trend based. Crumbl's been alive for about 8 years, so in that time, when these stores came on in 2021, it was more, new. It was a new fad, so business would just flow in. Now, as it's stabilizing in a way, I'm working on a bit more of the outreach, which previous ownership didn't have to do.
Yep.
So there is a true change in how business is coming in and what we're doing for output as well.
Yep.
And that all
Yeah, you
cash flow.
have to really think of, like, where's the brand in its life cycle? Is it scaling and growing, or is it stabilizing, or is it dealing with a lot of new entrants and needing new innovation, et cetera? That's a good point.
Absolutely. One more thing I'll throw in there is, if they happen to have, and it's small, it's like 10,000, 5,000, maybe 30, but if they happen to have a new product coming in and need a renovation done in the store, so those elements will come into it too, right? Let's say you bought it in September, and in November they say, hey, we're going to do this new thing. You might have a hint of it, you might not. It just depends, what part of the life cycle you've joined in. But having the ability to have the cash flow for those types of, honestly, is small compared to what you just bought for, right? For what you just bought the business for, but you still need to have money set aside that way.
Yeah, you need the rainy day fund, the snow day fund, the snow day fund, et cetera.
I'm in the mix of it right now, where I have to, speak with the investors for a snow day fund. It was a big enough impact. I mean, from the folks I've met here, they say in the last 10 years they haven't seen snow the way it's been the last couple weeks. So in that way, having the stores closed for 2-3 days, it is a snow day fund now.
Yeah, it's meaningful.
Ask for.
Yeah. What's something that you and your investors and your partnership group wish you knew before signing to buy the businesses that you know now?
So this being my first franchise experience, and not having, while yes, I have my cousin that runs a Little Caesars, I got some others, but not having the coach per se on like the daily, that was very much like just new things are thrown on your plate every second throughout the day, every day. It was wild. It was like, what is happening? As time has gone on, trusting in myself and my ability and what I know, what I don't know, asking when I don't know, and the partners know, they have the experience. It was more of, I'm new to them in a business setting, right? There's a family friend, so I've seen them at parties, this, that, the other, but I haven't worked with them. Or even my dad. I haven't worked with my dad. So as this had continued, it was mixing of personalities, understanding each other, grabbing that kind of intention of, what are we after? What are we doing this for? And how are we working together? I think I've had more conversation with my dad than I have in my entire life.
I'm sure that's good and bad.
It's fantastic.
That's good.
It's all blessings, man. I truly, Dad set me up for a pretty cool gig, and I can't complain.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's starting to roll even easier as the days are going by.
I love the attitude that you have too. And like you said, what a privilege it is, right? To be able to get the opportunity to do something hard like this and challenging and grow yourself as an individual and have the impact, like you said, on customers and, your team and, all while learning a new skill and growing it in the process. Taj, this has
One of
been,
my
oh, go ahead.
favorite things is taking, for example, right now in the store, I have a couple of nursing majors, a bio major, a few others. And what I love that I can bring to them is, for example, for nursing, they're interacting with humans the whole day. It's not like it comes and goes, right? So in that way, I love the fact that I have some level of an ability to help them with interactions with humans.
Mhm.
Just whoever walks in, welcome to Crumbl. What brings you in? Is there an occasion? Some level of that. Very small, very easy. It's not difficult, but it allows them to build confidence when they're out in medical or whatever they want to do, to have conversation, to ask. Maybe they have to manage up to a manager at some point, one of their bosses for whatever company they work for, whatever they do. Or they have to go ask questions and be resourceful and figure out, how am I going to pay this tax bill to the city because I've never paid it before and I don't know where to go. Just those elements of it where you start to trust yourself a bit more. So I'll
Yeah.
happily bring that forward to my team as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Taj, this has been amazing having you on and sharing your experience. Before we wrap up, I want to end with a few kind of like quick hitter type of questions. So the first one I have is there one metric that you check more than anything else week to week as you operate the business?
Yes. So I check labor constantly, consistently, because it was drilled in me by my dad and my uncle. And truly, when you're in off season, you really have to look at your ops, right? Because the only things that we can control is inventory, labor, and sales. So if we don't have, primarily inventory and labor are two. So that would be my primary.
All right, labor's the metric week to week. What's the biggest operational mistake you made early on or so far?
Mistake. We haven't had too many crazy mistakes. I've had a lot of checks and balances in place. But
Good.
honestly, Alex, if I picked up anything from any of the experiences I've had, I mean, even doing in Silicon Valley a 5,000 person Google event at the hotel, that's how events, entertaining food and beverage, that's how it is. There's going to be stuff that just keeps popping up. It's normal. So maybe there was something, but it's not registering to me as something that is so big that it wasn't able to be handled or sought or something to that degree. I think thus far I feel I have such confidence in my team that it allows me to really feel at ease.
Good. Yeah, it goes back to the people again, like we've been saying, is like if you got a good group in place, like it's harder to make mistakes at least.
Yes.
What about the best decision you've made in the first year?
Best decision thus far in 4 months. Moving to Tennessee. I think being closer to the stores helped me drop anxiety, drop not knowing what's going on. I'm fairly adaptable, so I've lived in a few parts around the States, and I like being part of different culture, different perspective. And if we look, bring the conversation back towards the stores, I have a lot more understanding when I'm asked a question, when I'm brought something that I have maybe the least amount of information on. I know where to go, which resource to grab, and how to go about it. So that has to be honestly the best feeling. I've had a few fantastic. It was in the first week. I think I started on a Monday, and by Thursday, I was doing a 6 a.m. shift. So I watched the sunrise while I was driving in, a 40-minute drive. Man, I cried like a baby. It was the best 20-minute cry I've had ever. I was so proud of how far, from singing on stages at like 5, 6, 7 years old, to doing the undergrad, to New York City, to California, to Charlotte, to this, and just really reflecting on my ride, my journey in life. So that has to be really the most the best experience I've had.
That's amazing, beautiful. I can relate in a lot of ways. It's like those slow, those calm moments you get. Finally, everything rushes into your head of like, wow, I'm really doing this and getting to do it. And little Taj probably wouldn't have ever imagined that this is what I mean. The mountains of Tennessee and building businesses and selling cookies and doing this thing, and that's awesome. What a cool
I
moment.
will say this, little Taj had no idea, and even Taj now has no idea what's coming, how it's going to come, where it's going to go. There are a lot of times, maybe in my 20s, maybe in my teens, where it was like, where do you want to be in 5 years? No idea.
Yeah.
Zero idea. I'm just kind of rolling with whatever comes, and it's happening well. There's these circle of influence and whatever else that you put in front of you or behind you, and that support system that allows it to just keep moving forward. So, little Taj would have been like, well, you're not an opera singer. What are you doing? But Taj here is singing to whoever walks in for a happy birthday. So
There you go. I love it. You're still singing, just in a different way on a different stage. Last question I got for you. If you had to start over today, is there anything you would do differently in the first 90 days of doing this?
I would push to have an apartment right away. The problem that we faced was we didn't know what that would look like. Would it be living up here, or coming up here for 2 days a week? Would it be staying in hotels, staying in Airbnb for the 2 day? Like, just didn't know what that looked like. Now that I know how I like to do this, that stability in my home will change the energy for me when I'm like just in my day-to-day for the first 90 days, because the constant shift from Airbnb to Airbnb, living out of the suitcase it was like 2 solid months. It was too much.
Yeah, 11 moves is a lot.
It was way too much. That on top of new humans, the team, the vendors, the place, the open carry guns. Like, I'm like, what's happening?
Culture shock. A lot of change. Well, where before we wrap up, where can people find you? If I got a screenwriter listening, or if we've got someone in that space listening, where can they find you? Or if there's other potential franchisees that have questions, I mean, where do they find you? On LinkedIn, or what's the best? So it's Taj, and then how do you spell your last name?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I think that'll be a smart place. I'm in Instagram, on TikTok. Honestly, you can find me just about anywhere. But TAJ, last name SURI. and there are not a lot of me on this planet, so fairly easy. And cool enough, mom and dad probably didn't know this because it was the early days of the internet, but they picked a name that allowed some decent brand marketing. So
I love it. Taj, is it Suri? Is that how I pronounce it? Taj Suri. Thank you again so much for coming on, sharing the wisdom, sharing your just, I think, awesome perspective on life, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, Alex. Talk soon.